From childhood, Carl was an independent and obedient boy. He helped at home and did well in his studies. They lived in a large village that had its own kindergarten, medical center, and even 2 stores. So, as soon as Carl turned 5, he was always against his parents taking him to kindergarten. He said he was a big boy and could walk to the kindergarten himself. At first, his mother would secretly accompany him, but then she stopped. The walk was really short. In the village, there was never such strict supervision as in the city, and there were few dangers. Carl's caregivers admired him. They said he was so polite and gallant. He would help all the girls with fastening their boots and adjusting their hats during their walks. Carl would modestly smile when praised and simply say, "They are girls, they take a long time to get ready, and I want to go outside as quickly as possible." Carl's parents were young. It so happened that Carl's father, Ernest, had to get married 2 weeks before joining the army. Then the mother of this girl came running to their home and sternly declared, "I won't allow my daughter to be disgraced. She is going to give birth in 3 months, and he is joining the army." No one wanted a scandal, and Ernest wasn't fundamentally against Josephine. If not her, it would be someone else. Either way, he had to get married. They quickly got married, and Ernest went to the army already as a married man. 2 months later, they informed him that Ernest had become a father. That is when Ernest even started to feel important. The other guys around him were young, but he was already a dad. When he returned home from the army, he looked at his son and began to be filled with affection. Despite being young himself, he felt a sense of responsibility. He loved his son and tried to teach him only good things. However, there was one problem. Ernest loved the woman very much. He couldn't just pass by a beautiful girl without trying to strike up a conversation or get to know her better. And if his wife didn't see, he might go even further. Josephine quickly discovered this particular trait of Ernest, and he started living under her careful control. If he knew his wife was around, he would behave decently. Josephine tried to shield him from other girls and sent him to work in workshops where there were no women at all. Ernest was a good guy, and he wasn't a drunkard either. Did Ernest love Josephine? Perhaps he did, but Josephine was crazy about him. She would have divorced him long ago because of his affairs on the sides, but she couldn't. There were rumors circulating about him, but Josephine loved her husband. Gradually, she either resigned herself to the situation or got used to it. From time to time, the villagers would tremble. Josephine would confront some girl who had caught her attention, and then she would chase her husband around the village. But eventually, everything would calm down and life would go on as usual. Meanwhile, Carl was growing up. When he was 15, young girls would sniff looking at him because he was already incredibly handsome and charming. After finishing school, Carl went to study at the university but eventually returned to the village. He particularly liked the city, and in the village during the absence, a new farm appeared with quite decent salaries. 2 more private stores opened, and many houses were being built, not just for those who lived there, but also for people from the city buying plots of land. Some wanted to build a country house, while others decided to make it their permanent residence. In general, there were many people in the village, but it still maintained its rural atmosphere. Everyone knew each other and everything about each other. People from neighboring villages and even the city would come to the disco. Carl loved it when urban youth visited. Sometimes fights would break out between city boys and village boys. During one of these fights, Carl was badly hurt. He was already starting to fall, but someone caught him. Since Carl was often the instigator of fights, they tried to hit him as hard as possible. He usually emerged victorious, but this time he took a blow. That day was a very festive evening overall. A young and beautiful woman came to the club. She was about 10 to 12 years older than Carl, so he didn't pay immediate attention to her. But then he caught her gaze. She quickly looked away, but this eye contact intrigued Carl. As soon as a song for a slow dance started playing, Carl walked through the hall and invited her to dance. "My name's Carl, and yours?" he asked. "Oh, I'm Muriel. I haven't seen you here before. We just moved here last week." "Who did you move with?" "My mom, dad, my son, and I. I didn't hear any mention of a husband." "I don't have a husband," Muriel laughed, and Carl realized the surprise. He really wanted to kiss those lips. He decided that after the disco, he would accompany Muriel home and then see how things went. But towards the end of the evening, some guys arrived, and a conflict ensued. Carl felt someone trying to pull him out of the crowd of fighters. Finally, the fighting crowd moved aside. Carl didn't feel too well. The last blow had landed somewhere in his chest, and breathing was difficult. He looked at his savior and was greatly surprised. It was Muriel. Her hair was disheveled, but her eyes were sparkling. "Let's go. Get out of here quickly before they catch up with you," she said. Carl grinned and tried to walk faster. Ahead of them was a haystack. He turned in that direction. He sat on the hay, then lay down. Muriel brought him water, washed his face, and then decided to examine his stomach. "Does it hurt a lot here?" she asked, pressing on the spot where he was hit. Well, Carl couldn't bear it anymore. He grabbed Muriel and pulled her close to him, and they spent the whole night together. Since that day, Carl lost his peace of mind. He had had various girlfriends before, but Muriel was different. No childish jealousy, no complaints. It felt like Carl didn't matter to her. That bothered Carl a lot. How was it possible? Girls had always chased after him, and now he had to chase after her. He became very angry and started to feel jealous of Muriel with every man. One day, he even tried to hit her when he heard that she was having an affair with some old guy. But Muriel intercepted his hand and said, "Listen to me. One more stunt like this from you, and you won't see me again. Who do you think you are to forbid me from seeing someone? You're not going to become my husband anyway. You are too young. You are a little used to me just spending time in bed with you. I will go out with whomever I want, and you won't dictate to me. What can you offer me? Shall we go and file a marriage application? You are just 12 years older than my son, so if you want to see me, accept me as I am." Carl was scared. Then he begged for forgiveness from Muriel and promised that he wouldn't behave that way anymore. And then he got used to it. He understood that Muriel was right. His parents would never allow him to marry her. They dated for almost a year. Carl was preoccupied that he didn't notice what was happening at home. He didn't notice his mother walking around sadly, crying into her pillow at night. But when he did notice, he began to understand that his father was often not at home after work. Sometimes his father would appear in the early morning, and sometimes he wouldn't come at all. His mother cried at night, thinking that Carl couldn't hear her. One day, Carl couldn't take it anymore. He went into his mother's room. "Mom, what is wrong with you?" "Nothing, Carl. Everything is fine." "Really? Everything is fine. Then why have you been crying for a week?" His mother couldn't hold back and started crying again. "Oh, my dear son, your father wants to leave us." You found another woman. Okay, but who is she? I don't know. Your father doesn't say anything, and nobody in the village really knows about anything about her. There are so many newcomers here now. Carl went outside, deciding that he must talk to his father. He had a good relationship with his dad, but he didn't want to let him hurt his mother. Of course, Carl couldn't tell his father what to do, but he had an obligation to talk to him. He saw his father only in the evening when he returned from work. His father was sitting on the porch, lost in thought. Carl sat down next to him. "Dad, can we talk?" His father looked at him. "Well, let's talk, son. Is something wrong with you?" "Dad, it is not my business, but I feel sorry for Mom. She's been crying constantly." His father remained silent for a while and then began to speak. "Son, you are already grown up, so let's be frank. Many years ago, I married your mother because she was pregnant with you. She knew that I didn't love her. She knew that I was interested in another woman, but I always tried for the family's sake. There was never anything wrong at home, and your mother always forgave me because she loved me. But it was never serious with the other woman. Your mother is a good woman, a good homemaker, and a good mother to you all. That is why I always came back home. After all, we are a family. But this time, it turned out differently. You see, son, maybe you are familiar with this feeling. For the first time in 43 years, I have fallen so deeply in love. You see, I only leave her, but I'm drawn back to her. But I can't abandon my family either. You are my own. Your mother is crying. Do you think it's easy for me? Dad, what is going to happen now? Are you going to leave us? It will be such a shame for Mom. You know how the situation will be discussed in our village. I know, Carl. That's why I haven't left yet. I don't myself what to do. I am pulled in both directions, and I can't leave your mother. Dad, who is she? I'm sorry, Carl, but I won't tell you that. In case I do end up staying in the family, you don't need to know. Nobody needs to know. Carl sensed silence. He felt sorry for his mother, her tears, but here was his father, and he felt sorry for him too. Maybe it really was his first true love that had come along. Carl, don't think anything bad. It is not like I will just walk off and run away. We need to think everything through carefully. After all, I am not Tony anymore. It is just that I have always been indifferent to other women, their feelings, their desires. But this woman is different. You see, I am capable of anything for her. On the other hand, there is your mother. We have been together for so many years, and she suffered because of me. But don't delay making a decision. Mom will be better off knowing your decision. This is no way to live. Maybe you're right. Give me a week and I will figure it all out. And don't be angry with me, son. You are grown up. You understand everything. Carl went inside, leaving his father sitting on the porch. His father entered the house when everyone had already gone to bed. Carl heard him settle down to sleep on the couch in the large room, while his mother quietly cried in her own room. The next day, his father went to work and Carl had a day off. His mother prepared breakfast in the morning. Carl sat at the table and started eating. "Mom, what will you do if Dad leaves you? Where would he go?" "Mom, I know everything. I'm just curious. If he leaves, will you continue crying every day?" His mother sat down in front of him. "I don't know, Carl. Maybe I will." "Mom, where's your feminine pride? You are young and beautiful. You can find another man for yourself." "Oh, Carl, why would I need another man if I love your father? I have loved him my whole life and I forgive him for everything." "That is exactly what he takes advantage of, Mom, Carl. I understand it all. I understand that he takes advantage, But what does it matter to me? The most important thing for me is to have him by my sides, Carl's sides. Adults are worse than children. So many years together and they can't sit down and talk. I wish my father would make up his mind already. How much longer can he torment Mom? I need to go to the city. I will be back by evening, Carl asked. No, Carl, thank you. Why are you going to the city? His mother replied. Oh, just some errands and to clear my head, Carl replied. Well, go ahead, take a walk, she said. Of course. Carl couldn't tell her why he needed to go to the city. He wanted to buy a gift for Muriel. More and more he thought about how he had a steady job and could support a family, even if his wife had a child. And after the conversation with his father, he realized that he needed to do it exactly that way. His father was right. Love is a once-in-a-lifetime thing. If you let it slip away, you can't get it back. What difference did it make that Muriel was older than him? She looked so good that most young girls couldn't compete with her. The closer he got to the city, the more he realized that he wanted to buy a ring. They were supposed to meet today. Everything was the same at the haystack. Today, Carl would try to have a serious conversation with her and propose. Age is just a triviality. If it didn't bother him, then why was Muriel so worried? Carl did everything as he wanted. In the store, a beautiful ring immediately caught his eye. Its price was suitable, and within 5 minutes he became the owner of a beautiful box with a precious treasure inside. Arriving home, Carl rested, took a shower, and eagerly awaited the evening. During the farming season, when there was a lot of work to do, Carl's weekends were rare, so he couldn't meet Muriel as often as he wanted. The evening was nice and warm. It was getting dark outside. Ernest stepped out onto the porch after the dinner. He sat there, watching the sunset. He didn't feel like going inside. Let Josephine go to sleep, then he would go inside. He saw that she had made the bed for him on the couch in the large room. Today, he wanted to meet his beloved. Tonight, but she said her son was sick and she couldn't leave him alone. Well, Ernest understood everything. A child is very important. Carl turned 22 already, but if something happened to him, Ernest would always be there for him. That is his son. He heard that the house had become quiet, that Josephine had gone to bed, so he could go to the bed too. He was about to get up when he noticed a woman's shadow pass by on the path. Ernest was curious. Oh, that must be some girl running to Carl, he thought. She was heading towards the haystack. It was a bit further from the other buildings. Ernest should remind Carl that the hay there was dry. Carl's a smart guy, of course, but a reminder wouldn't hurt. Besides, he wanted to see who was aiming to be his daughter-in-law. He had noticed the situation more than once. Ernest walked towards the barn. He walked quickly, wanting to catch the young ones right away, not later when it would be awkward. It was quiet inside. Ernest pulled the gate towards himself, and there he saw his son. But he wasn't looking at Carl. He was looking at the woman in Carl's embrace, his Muriel. And suddenly, it hurt Ernest so much. Muriel, what are you doing here? Ernest asked. The young woman jumped up, looked at Carl, then Ernest, and couldn't say anything in response. Carl, is this your Muriel? Ernest asked. No, that can't be. Muriel and I have been together for a year already. I bought the ring to propose to her today. Carl was speaking, and with each word, he realized he wasn't saying the right things. Everything his father said was true. He lowered his hands with the box. Muriel, is it true? The woman remained silent. Then his father spoke. How could you do this? You were dating me for a year as well. How can this be? You slept with my son, and then you came to me. You slept with me, and then went to my son. I can't wrap my head around this. I can't believe it." And then Carl burst into action. He quickly ran towards the house, and Ernest realized why he was running there. Within seconds, Carl appeared on the porch. He had a rifle in his hands. "Carl, don't you dare to do it," she said. Ernest said, "Carl, don't even think about it. Do not ruin your life. Whether she lives or dies, you will still end up in prison. Dad, don't you understand? She's ruined the life of our entire family. Mine, yours, Mom's. Carl, you don't need to do this," she pleaded. Carl raised the rifle with a sharp movement and fired. In the last moments, Ernest jumped and pushed Muriel. She fell, and the shot hit Ernest in the sides. "Dad!" Ernest, Carl, and Josephine rushed towards Ernest. Muriel watched them from the ground, her eyes filled with horror. Ernest lifted his head. "Carl, listen to me, and remember, tell everyone that I asked you to hand me the gun. The safety was off, and you didn't know. That's how I left the rifle. I clumsily catched it, and it went off. Do you hear me? The gun went off when it was already in my hands. This is very important. Answer me. Did you all understand?" "Yes, Dad, I understood everything." "Hang in there. The ambulance is on the way, Ernest. Don't die." Josephine sobbed. "Josephine, forgive me for everything. I have been tormenting you all my life." Ernest looked at Muriel. "She needs to live here as if no one else was here." Josephine turned to Muriel. She jumped up and ran away down the path. Of course, there was no reason for her to stay. In the last moments, as the doctors were approaching them, Josephine noticed a red box. Quickly, she grabbed it and put it in her pockets. Ernest was already unconscious. They took him to the hospital. Carl and Josephine at the hospital. Their father was immediately taken into surgery. The doctor said, "You should go home. The operation will be very long." But both Carl and Josephine shook their heads. They sat in the corridor, embracing each other. Josephine quietly cried, and Carl gently stroked her shoulders and hair. "Mom, don't cry. That is so strong, he will pull through," Carl said. "Carl, tell me, how did all this happen?" Josephine asked. Carl remained silent for a while. Then he thought that his mother deserved to know the truth. He omitted some details, but told her the truth. "What do you think, Carl? Why did he save her?" Josephine asked. "Mom, don't even think about such nonsense. Dad was thinking about me, and I was a fool not to listen. Even if I graced her, I would already be in prison." "You are probably right, my son. He wouldn't have done it for her. He wouldn't have. Right, Carl?" "No, Mom, of course not." 2 hours had passed, and no one had come out of the operating room. After about 15 minutes, a nurse rushed out and ran down the corridor. Just 2 minutes later, she ran back accompanied by another nurse carrying a small suitcase. Carl knew that there was blood in that suitcase. He stared motionlessly at the closed door. Then he heard a rustling sound. He turned around and barely managed to catch his falling mother. "Mom, what is wrong with you? Mom!" Josephine lay on the floor, showing no signs of life. Carl shouted, "Help! Someone help!" His cry echoed through the hospital in the calm of the night, in the silence of the night. It was particularly terrifying. Within seconds, a nurse rushed over to him. She quickly assisted the situation and hurried back to the medicine cabinets. Together, they revived Carl's mother. They helped her sit in the chair. The nurse shook her head. Josephine was too pale. She took her blood pressure. "You can't sit here and worry. You need to lie down. Your blood pressure is high." "I won't leave. I will stay here. My husband isn't there," she said. She had seen how families often waited outside that door. hoping, worrying, or losing hope. But it was impossible to send them home. Come with me. I have a couch at my station. You really need to lie down. Carl helped his mother to her feet and guided her to the couch. The nurse brought a small pillow and gave her a tablet. Here, you will feel better soon. Thank you so much. Carl, if by any chance I don't hear any news, push me right away, okay, Mom? Rest, I will sit here. Carl sat on a chair next to the nurse deck. From there, he could see both the operating room door and the couch where his mother lay. Time passed very slowly. Carl stared at a fixed point. Suddenly, he felt someone touch his shoulder. Here, take this, it's coffee. Thank you, what is your name? Naomi, and yours? I am Carl. Is your dad in there? Yes, Naomi. Naomi didn't ask any further questions. Carl wasn't in the right state. As morning approached, the doctor finally came out. Carl immediately stood up, and Josephine did too. They approached him. Carl asked, "What about my dad?" The doctor raised his tired eyes to him. "Were you the one shooting?" "Yes, perhaps your shots helped your father. He had a cardiac arrest. But when he heard you cry, his heart started beating again. It might just be a coincidence, but I have been working here long enough to know that coincidences don't happen. We thought he wouldn't survive. What can I say? Your father was very lucky. I can't say for certain, but I believe everything will be fine. For you, Josephine." She fell towards knees and embraced the doctor's legs. Ernest looked at his wife with interest. There would never been a need for it before. And when Josephine came to him for the first time and then left, the man in the ward sniffed. "Yes, Ernest, you got lucky." "What do you mean? You are lucky with your wife. She is beautiful and caring. She is better than any beauty queen, not like ours, fat and loud. Your wife smiles at us and it makes our hearts happy. Oh, come on, she is just an ordinary woman." "Ordinary? You fool. Ernest, a complete fool. How can you not appreciate such a woman?" That's when Ernest started to think. Then he looked at her attentively. How was it before? A wife is a wife. What is there to look at? It turns out she has very long and thick eyelashes, making her eyes so mysterious. Her lips are plump, like those of a young girl. Her fingers are slender and elegant. You would never guess that this woman runs a household. She is well groomed and she smells of some delicious perfume. One day, when Josephine was feeding him with a spoon, he said to her, "Josephine, you are so beautiful." She smiled and replied, "Did they start injecting you with some new medication?" He didn't understand at first what medication had to do with it, but then he realized, and Ernest laughed. She even has a sense of humor. Where were his eyes before? Each time, he eagerly awaited Josephine's arrival. He waited for their meetings like a teenager. Like many years ago, he tried to think of Muriel, but his brain seemed to want to erase everything related to her. When he was discharged from the hospital, Josephine brought a basket of treats for the nurses and the doctor. The farewell of the hospital was cheerful. The nurses sadly realized that this young, handsome guy wouldn't come to visit his father anymore. And those who shared the same room with Ernest knew they wouldn't taste Josephine's delicious pastries again. Muriel left the village. No one knew where she went. They said she went in search of happiness. Although she didn't take her son along to find happiness, she left him with her parents. Ernest, as soon as he got home, decided to talk to his wife first. "Josephine, I really want you to hear me. You know, it was only in the hospital that I realized what a fool I have been all my life. I looked at you and understood that you are better than everyone else. You know, you were right there and I didn't notice. Please forgive me. I am begging you, forgive me. Let's try to start fresh as if we just met. Because if you think about it, I don't really know you at all. I was always preoccupied with something for someone, Josephine didn't have a chance to respond. The door opens and their son stood on the threshold, holding the hand of a shy girl. "Mom, Dad, meet Naomi. We have applied for marriage registration." Thank you for joining us today on Deep Stories. Be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on our next video.